What does it take to create a vibrant, thriving life? First, the sad news is that Thoreau was right. Most people are leading quiet lives of desperation, lacking in meaning, fulfillment, and vitality. But we choose more. We choose to create extraordinary lives. And the Art of Vibrant Living show entertains you with inspiration, empowerment, and education to create your life into a masterpiece. It's time. Let's vibe up. Aloha, y'all. Daniel Aaron here. I am your host, and this is the Art of Vibrant Living show. Welcome. We have a phenomenal show today that is super practical, that you will actually be able to take something from and apply in your life immediately, which, by the way, please do, right? Please do try this at home. Please don't just be entertained. Actually do something with this information, because that's our purpose. It's really to empower you to live your most vibrant, thriving life. Right? And if I can help with that, please reach out to me. Send me an email, daniel@danielaaron.com. I'd love to meet you, learn what you're up to, and support you. So let me tell you about our amazing guest today, Cathy Eads. Do you know people who move through life looking just fine from the outside, but internally they feel like stress is slowly crushing them? Cathy offers a stress release valve so you can feel relief fast, actually enjoy the life you've worked so hard to build. Cathy's individualized release, refresh, restore system uses your body and breath to calm your mind and steady your emotions while building deep, lasting peace and resilience, so you feel equipped to handle whatever life sends your way. And y'all, this is such an important realm, an important topic. It's one of the core elements of my own life, so I'm especially grateful to you, Cathy. Thank you for being with us. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Daniel. I'm really pleased to be here with you today.
Yay. All right. Awesome. Well, I got a lot of questions. I've been looking forward to speaking with you for ages. And since I have a little advantage over the audience, live or by rebroadcast, because I know you a little bit, would you share with everyone else, how did you get here, right? How did you get to be doing what you're doing?
Oh, that's a good question. My own journey with just practicing yoga and doing meditation started over 20 years ago. But I, like many people in the West, started by just practicing yoga to get some physical activity. I started when my 3 children were really young, and there was, I forget the channel, but it was some fitness channel, and it had a 30-minute yoga class. And I was like, perfect. I can do this in my house. I don't have to leave or get childcare. And it made me feel good. And I knew that I was moving and strengthening my body. So that was where I started. And then I continued on. But, this practice, while I was doing the physical part, I really was not aware of the fact that yoga is it's a holistic and healthy way of living. And I had completely missed out on all of that part because it just wasn't presented to me. And then back in 2019, my at that time, husband and I separated. We had been together for over 25 years. That was a big shift, obviously. And previous to that, I had dealt with a very serious illness with one of my children, not knowing for sure whether this child was going to survive and coordinating all of that care. And then we had started a business and had 6 figures of revolving debt that we were managing over about 10 years. So I'm really familiar with a lot of stress. So during that period that I was going through the divorce, I just all of a sudden, out of the blue, I'd only been a student of yoga. I was like, I just want to go to a teacher training. It was just like this lightning bolt moment, because I had been invited to those numerous times over the years. I even have a sister who's like, you should go be a teacher. And I was like, no, I like being a student. So it was like, when opportunities, like the door opens at just the right time for things sometimes. And that was a period of my life where I was really open and able to learn all of this about yoga as a way of living. And I was like, oh, wow, like this is what I need right now. I'm going through so much, and I've been through so much. And I need to fortify what's inside me to make it through to the next side of this.
Mm.
So it was very transformational going through that training. I was really fortunate to have stumbled upon a training program that was very traditional. All of my teachers either were born in India or they were born here but are of Indian descent. So they had a real connection to the foundations
Mm.
and the traditions of yoga from thousands of years back. And at the time, I didn't realize how unique that was in the yoga space. So then as soon as I got finished, I was like, well, I'm not going to wait around. I'm just going to start teaching. So I started doing some classes online, and then eventually realized that like what I really was able to connect with people one-on-one, and doing this really personalized work with one-on-one clients where they can say, this is what I need. And I can say, I know how to address those issues. And then together, I'm their guide. I don't like to necessarily think of myself as a teacher, just filling people with information, but I guide them through the practices so that we're doing them together, and they can immediately feel the change. And then also I get to witness that, which is really, really fulfilling for me to note and hear their feedback about how things are going for them and be able to adjust when we need to. So
That's beautiful. Awesome. And I mean, as you took us back into that time, you know, divorce and $100,000 of revolving debt and a child that might not survive, it's like, oh my goodness, that's so intense. And I know, like, I can say now I've been blessed to have many dark nights of the soul in my life.
yeah,
And I am so grateful for the practices that I've learned along the way that helped me, yeah, get through to the other side, helped me not only that, but actually to I think mine some of the gifts of those challenging times, right? Rather than just
definitely.
bypass them. Yeah.
Definitely. Yes. I do feel like that's such a good point, is to be able to see that we all have hardships. Every life has its challenges, its traumas, and its joys, and being able to have practices that let you take a step back and reflect on your experience, even when you're in the middle of it, and find the nuggets of wisdom, growth, learning that you then are going to carry forward. And recognizing too how, some of the people who I find are the most resilient and the most compassionate are those who have been through serious hardship. And it just opens your mind to the idea that, look, we're all struggling with something at any given moment, and it allows you to be more compassionate. I think there's a book called Broken Open or something like that. I don't remember the author, but that's the idea. Like, you go through heartbreaking things and it allows your heart to open up and understand other people's trials, sufferings, and have more compassion for that too.
Absolutely. Yeah. Beautifully said. So, rewinding a little bit to something you said too, you described a trajectory I believe is common for a lot of us in the yoga world specifically, which is we start at a gym or a yoga studio and want to get some exercise or less stress or for me, it was like, I want to get my body so that I could approve of myself.
Yeah.
There's all different motivations for people in the beginning. And for most people in the beginning, it's just the tip of the iceberg. Like, okay, yeah, there's these physical movements that have some benefits, whatever the motivation is. And then some people say, wait, there's more. What's going on underneath this? And you spoke about it in terms of, connecting to teachers that have a very pure way of teaching, or are connected to the real origins of yoga. So there's two distinctions here. This is a long question, but I think it's one that you'll have a lot to say about. So one question is like, well, what's the difference, and why does it matter, yoga just as a physical thing compared to the greater depth of what's possible? And actually, I'll just pause there because I don't want to overwhelm things. Does that make sense, what I'm asking?
I think so. There is the physical aspect, the asanas, the postures that we are practicing or flowing through. And then that is surface level of your physical practice. And if you are aware of and have been guided or taught how to, you can use that physical practice and the breath pattern of the physical practice, the breath that you're using during that practice, to really help connect to your mind and your emotional, spiritual self. Like, we are integrated beings. And I think we sometimes forget that. We can be eating fabulously clean, healthy diets, and we can be exercising and doing all of these physical activities to really take care of our body. But if we are also feeding our brains too much stimulation, too much media, slasher movies, there's a lot of stuff. Our body, mind, and spirit has to digest all of that. And what we sometimes only think about is digesting physical food and taking care of the physical body, the digestion and circulation, and all of those. Those are all very important. But we sometimes miss the simple fact that we go through life and we're not even breathing in a regulated fashion, which, if we're not, it upsets the nervous system. And a lot of people are walking around with very dysregulated nervous systems, which then leads to physical disease over time. And it might not be until later in life, but a lot of the metabolic diseases that are prevalent throughout our Western culture have one of their roots in the fact that we run around so stressed out. We don't take time to relax. We don't play. We don't have these tiny, simple little routines in our day that bring us joy. Like, these seem like they might be things you could dismiss, and they're just not that important. But again, over time, the impact that it has on us is pretty profound. And so, with kind of going back to what you were asking, if you have a physical practice, that's a great gateway to bringing a yogic lifestyle into your life, so that you're practicing the equilibrium, the equanimity that we're always trying to find while we're on the mat. We bring that more into our daily life, so that when we're interacting with people, I've often heard the story of, the person's all Zen and they're saying namaste at the end of the class. And then they go out to the parking lot and they're honking their horn and say, get out of my way. There's this real disconnect there. But if we are working with the breath, we're working with the body, we're trying to live consciously, taking those yogic principles off the mat, we will find that our interactions with other human beings are more constructive, more positive. Our relationships with the people that we care about the most can be deepened and much more healthy. And our relationship with ourselves, which we often don't even really think about, can become much more healthy We have more self-compassion. And when we have more self-compassion, we can have more compassion for other people.
Yeah, nice. Thank you. That's really clear and well said. And as you were taking us through the modern lifestyle, just put it that way, I started to feel myself getting stressed out and tired and depressed, and like, oh my goodness, yeah, it's crazy the way we live, and it's shocking that, I mean, as poor as, especially in the US, people's health tends to be, right? We've got so much disease and obesity and all kinds of stuff. It's amazing, given our lifestyle, that we're even still able to walk.
Yeah. And, we've been, culturally speaking, we've kind of learned to accept that that's just the way it has to be,
Mm,
but it doesn't. I mean, yes, you have to work within the system that is current. I understand that. And some people are like, I just can't take the time. I don't have that. And I'm like, well, you have this one precious life. What are you trading your life for?
mm,
And is the trade worth it to you? I think that's where we have to, again, we step back and we really evaluate, what am I investing my time and energy in, and how is that impacting the overall umbrella of my life, my relationships with other people, and what my legacy is
mm,
in living this life. And
mm,
sometimes that gets a little out there for people, but I'm like, you get every day you have is precious,
mm,
and you want to be living it in a way that values that precious life that you have. When you mentioned too, the stress, even me just describing some of
yeah.
the modern life, one of the things that I share with people right away when we start working is a very, very simple breath exercise.
Huh.
And if you don't mind, I would like to kind of walk us through it just very briefly.
Oh, hallelujah. Yes, please.
Yeah, it's super, super short. And the more amped up you are, then you might need to repeat it a few more times. But it's especially useful. Like if you're in a meeting and things get very tense, or you're in an argument with someone and you're like, oh, I can feel myself becoming dysregulated. You can do this without closing your eyes and nobody's even going to know. But if you can remove yourself and go do it in a quiet place where you can close your eyes, all the
Mm,
better.
mm,
But for instance, if you're in a meeting, you just count to 6 as you inhale, and then count to 8 as you exhale. You extend the exhale just a couple seconds longer, or maybe if you're really worked up, you might only count to 4, because our breathing becomes a little more shallow naturally when we're kind of in that fight or flight response. And you might be like, well, it's just a meeting at work. What do you mean fight or flight? But our brains see a threat as a threat, just like it could be the saber-toothed tiger, or it could be the boss asking you the question that you think could lead to you not getting the promotion, or losing your position. Your brain just sees threat, threat, threat to my safety and survival. So it gets over, the nervous system just wants to protect you. So it starts the shallow breathing, so you can start to get everything moving to run away
mm.
from the tiger if necessary. But that is the whole thing. It is counting the breath in and then extending it for a couple seconds longer. And you just continue that pattern.
Or would you be up for just giving a little guidance on that right now?
Absolutely. Yeah, let's do it. And I suggest, if I like to do it while we close our eyes, and if you're comfortable putting a hand on your chest and your belly, then you can feel the
Mm,
body responding to the inhale and exhale.
mhm.
So you just want to settle there for a moment, and then we'll inhale to the count of, let's do 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then we slowly exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's do again. Inhale. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then take a moment to just allow the breath to settle back to a natural, effortless pacing. And just notice any sort of shift you might feel in the state of mind or the state of the emotions. And then when you feel ready, you can go ahead and open the eyes, bring the hands back to your lap. And of course, we're in a very comfortable position, so we probably feel pretty relaxed already. But if you are in a situation where you have become agitated, you might want to repeat that a few times. And you can slowly begin to feel the parasympathetic nervous system is being cued. That's what's happening when you extend the exhale. You're cueing your nervous system that, hey, I am okay. I am safe. It is all right. And then you can kind of bring your logical mind back on board. So if you are having this conversation with someone and you're trying to be, speak clearly and get your point across, you're going to be better able to do that by calming the nervous system back down again.
Wonderful. I'm 100% with you. And that felt great. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
And it's, for me as a reminder too, like I wasn't feeling particularly stressed out or worried when we started. However, I became aware of, oh, actually now I feel more spacious and more relaxed. So there was a level of tension that I was holding that I just wasn't even aware of. That was what was normal for me.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So it can be, that kind of exercise can be when we need it, or just when like, oh, maybe I just want to feel a little better right now.
Yeah. And that's a great point, Daniel. Especially when I'm working with clients who are dealing with either chronic levels of stress or they're trying to manage anxiety, I say, the thing that really helps train you better for this is to do this in the middle of the afternoon when you don't feel stressed at all. You're just training yourself to control the breath in a way that naturally is going to bring your resting stress level down a notch. So it takes more to get you to that dysregulated state, because your normal stress is at a lower level. And also when you get in this fight or flight situation, your brain will be like, you have that tool. Remember that thing you can do with your breath, instead of being just like, I don't know what to do. But the more we do these kinds of things when we are at rest and we don't really have craziness happening, the better we're able to access them when we really need them.
Yeah, I'm with you. And then it becomes habitual, which reminds me, that takes me back to something you said a little while ago, is you've heard, and I've heard it too, people say, oh, I'd love to do that, but I don't have time, or I can't take the time for that kind of thing. And of course, I get it. I've been a single parent. I've owned multiple businesses. I thought I didn't have time, and there was a part of my life earlier where it was just like, it was uncomfortable, so I avoided doing certain things. Now, as it's evolved for me, though, like my response internally, I don't usually say this out loud with most people, though, is like, you can't afford not to do that, right? It's especially when we think we don't have the time. Well, I think what a lot of people don't realize is, and I want to get your take on this, is that my experience is that the time I invest in myself, in creating myself, in well-being, in physical clarity, mental, emotional, spiritual clarity every day, that time multiplies the time through the rest of the day. It gives me more effectiveness. I get way more accomplished. It's an accelerator of productivity. It's not something that takes away from it. Does that fit? Does that make sense for you?
Yes, because what we were saying too, like this, there's a certain level of clarity you get mentally by doing these practices, so that you're just making decisions is easier.
Mhm.
When something comes up that like throws a wrench in your plans, it doesn't throw you so off track. You're like, okay, I got to refigure out the schedule instead of, oh my God, I mean, when you stay at a higher level of arousal, you're very much like that. Or I should speak for myself, but it's been my experience that a wrench getting thrown in the schedule is enough to like send me over the edge. So I lost my train of thought here. But yes, what you're saying is so true. We are, it's like having a retirement account.
Hmm.
I mean, yes, you might go through periods of time where you're like, I honestly don't know how I'm going to put anything in there this month, but I can probably do $5. And that $5, by the time you need it, your retirement is going to have exponentially grown. It's the same kind of thing here. Every single day that you have these practices, whatever they are, that bring you this inner strength and fortify your spiritual, mental, physical well being, it's like putting those deposits in your retirement account or paying off the mortgage, or it is investing in your well-being, and it pays off in spades. Because I know one of my clients, actually, one of my private clients turned 80 years old last weekend. And she's been practicing yoga for 30 years.
Hmm.
She's in incredibly good shape. Yes,
Hmm.
she has some age-related things going on, but because of her practice, she said, if I look around at my friends and my friend group, I'm really doing well. And I'm so glad that I've been doing this for a while, because I know this is one of the reasons that I'm doing well. So yeah, I just feel like it's like any other investment. And even if you have a day where you're like, I just don't know when can I do anything? You can go outside for a 10-minute walk to the mailbox to grab the mail and stand in the sun and let it shine on your face. It's free, and it takes next to no time, but it's a deposit in your account.
Hmm.
So you are paying yourself that day by making that deposit in the account, walking in the sunshine, going outside. Maybe you'll see a neighbor, maybe you'll see a squirrel or a flower. I mean, you just don't know what might bring some joy into your day with that little tiny deposit in your account.
Mhm. Beautiful. Awesome. I love it. Yeah, it is like an investment. Well, so and then another question related to that. I think I know an answer, but I want to hear from you. Um, it's an investment, like investments we think of as things that pay off in the future.
Hmm.
Um, is it also applicable, what you're describing in the practices and routines and rituals that you teach? Is that also useful now, right? Not just in the future.
Yeah, I see the benefits of it every day. I mean, there was a recent I mean, this is a very personal example, but I was having some work done in my backyard. I had to leave the house. I left the people doing the work with instructions. Here's my property line. If you need to go somewhere else to get to this little place, remove this piece of fence, go around the carport. Here's how to get there.
Hmm.
So I leave, I go do my thing. I get a call from my neighbor, very upset. These people have come onto my property. They've run over some of my rare plants. I yelled at them and got them to go away, blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, I'm so sorry I'm not there. I will be home in 20 minutes. I will, I'm glad you got them to move. I will take care of this.
Mm-hmm.
So met them all in my backyard when I got home, and the neighbor was continued to just be upset. And I said, do you want us to replace your plants? Very upset, blah, blah. They shouldn't have been here. And I shouldn't say blah, blah, but continued to reiterate the points he was making about why he was so upset. And I can appreciate that. It's his property.
Yeah.
But I finally was able, I was able to keep my cool. And I finally just looked him in the eyes and I said, what can we do to make this right for you?
Hmm.
because I thought, it's clear I can't say anything here. I'm going to need for him to tell me
Mhm.
what is going to make this right for you. And he said, I want them to go away and never come back. And I want the manager to come and see what's happened. And I don't ever want to hear about it again. And I said, we'll make that happen.
Hmm.
But a few years ago, I would have been so distraught by
Mm.
his emotion,
Mm.
his being so upset. My neighbor, like, what are they going to think? You know, I couldn't have managed that well. And I know it is because of these practices that have brought me this. I don't know how better to describe it other than it's like this unshakable strength within me that allows me to just be present and
Mm.
and also be separated from what's going on out there. Like it's almost like this little protective shield. I know it sounds kind of funny, but I'm a pretty empathic person, and I used to be very affected by the emotions of people in my family, in my neighborhood. Not that I do not care, but I am now able to separate my own feelings from the feelings of people outside of me. And that was very difficult for me to do for many, many years. And now I have this resolve that allows me to manage those kinds of things and manage conflict and make decisions and just come from this centered, grounded place where my values are driving my decisions.
Mm.
My decisions are not based on fear or what might happen. It's the values are right at the core of everything. And it's very freeing. I don't have to worry about what other people think. I have to
Mm.
worry about or be concerned with, am I making the best decision according to my values?
Mm.
And then I let things happen. I let them unfold. I used to be a person I was a sales rep for many years. So you set goals and you make things happen, you know? And I understand now that there's a certain amount of things that are not in my control. I mean, a person's budget might be cut and they simply cannot buy the product that we worked on this whole deal for. It's not my fault. It's not really their fault, but that's not going to happen. So I'm going to need to take stock and look elsewhere to meet my goal. But getting all upset about it isn't productive. And I spent a lot of years trying to make things happen and push and persist against things that I had no control over. So I'm kind of winding on here, but I think that's kind of what you were getting at is like we have a lot that's within our control. And when we try to start controlling the things outside of us, it's just a recipe for suffering.
Mm. Well, it's really brilliant what you said because yeah, you're right on track. I'm hearing like I know as my body continues to age, right, as I make more revolutions around the sun, that my vitality and flexibility and strength continues to rise above other people in my same age range. I have a happier experience in my body. So there's a benefit down the road, but we also pointed out like there's a really immediate benefit, not just for you, like you didn't get as stressed out and triggered and upset in that situation. You were also able to be a loving force for your neighbor who was upset in a way that maybe a few years ago, I'm guessing from the way you described it, you might have got into a conflict, right? And made it worse. And so, yeah, it's a beautiful illustration of it's useful now, it's useful later. It's a
Mhm.
gift that gives in many ways.
Yeah, yeah. And I think also people begin to see like little small things, even the fact that, you know, taking a walk outside is a different experience for me now than it probably was 5 years ago. I notice so many more things.
Mm.
I mean, the bright sunshine and the blue sky are more impactful. The
Hmm.
spring, the flowers bloom. I'm looking out the window here. The
Yeah.
flowers blooming, the bluebird that flies by. You know, like I'm aware in the first
Yeah.
place. And then when I recognize them, I have a deeper appreciation for
Yeah.
the small things that when we're really busy and we're really stressed and anxious, we just don't even we can't appreciate them because our bodies and minds are just kind of like, we can't deal with that. We're
Yeah.
over here just trying to survive.
Yeah.
Um, so, and I think the other thing I wanted to just mention too is relationships with the people that I really care about.
Hmm.
Those are the other places that I've seen, having these daily practices really pay off,
Hmm.
because I don't take things personally. Like, whatever's going on with somebody else is going to, they may react in a way that I am shocked by, but it has more to do with them than it does with me. As long as as long as I'm behaving from a place of kindness and compassion. Um, but yeah, navigating some complicated conversations and that kind of thing has become easier, less stressful. They are allowed to have their feelings. I'm allowed to have mine, and we can disagree, and it's okay. That kind of thing, I think, is one of the right now benefits.
Yeah.
But yeah, those little things, like I was mentioning the walk, I bring that up again because yes, that is a deposit in the account that pays off down the road, but it pays off today too.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful. Well, and speaking of today and time, it's flying along for us here. So I recall that you have a gift for our audience. Is that true?
Yes,
Yeah.
for sure. I would very
So, yeah,
much
would you
like.
tell us about that, would you?
So I find that I'm the kind of person who likes to try things out and see how they work for me.
Hmm.
And so I want to offer people the opportunity to take a 30-minute one-on-one session with me. I call
Hmm.
it a feel better now session,
Hmm. Hmm.
because at the beginning of it, I'm going to ask, what is going on with you today that you would like to address? And
Hmm.
so we can fully customize what we do in that 30 minutes, whether it's pain relief, whether it's stress relief, whether it's managing anxiety, whether maybe you have a chronic condition, maybe you've got a big presentation you're wanting to get, feel strong and ready for, so many different things. So I ask people at the very beginning, and then we go from there. And every
Hmm.
practice that we do in that little 30 minutes is going to be very specific to what
Hmm.
that specific person needs.
Hmm.
And I've provided you with the link so people can go to my Calendly link. They can schedule that time with me. And at the end of that, if it's something they're like, you know what, I could use more of this in my life, I'd definitely like to work with you. We can certainly talk about that. Or we can set another time. I know sometimes people are like, oh, I feel so zen right now. Can I hold on to that? And we schedule it for tomorrow. But yeah, that's the way I usually like to give people a taste of
Hmm.
what I can offer. And then they can decide if it's something they want more of.
Perfect. That's beautiful. I love that. And I love that you customize what you're giving to people based on what their situation is. That's
Mhm.
fantastic. Okay. And so if you're watching live or rebroadcast, the link is actually on the screen there. I'm going to say it out loud though, for those who might be listening, not watching. It's pretty simple, but calendly.com, that's probably pretty obvious these days. And then /C Roberts, C, the letter C, and then Roberts, like the name with the S, C Roberts, and then Cathy's last name, which is Eads, EADS. So Calendly /C Roberts Eads /30min, 30min.
Yes.
Yeah.
Calendly.com/
Thank you. Yeah. Calendly.com /C Roberts Eads /30min. Okay. Fantastic. Now, besides that, Cathy, and I encourage people to take advantage of that. It's a kind and generous offer. What's the best way for people to reach you if they want to know more or tap into what you're sharing and teaching?
Yeah, I am pretty active on LinkedIn. So
Mhm.
you can find me. It's Cathy Reads on LinkedIn. And you can also find me on YouTube. I have a bit of a YouTube channel there with some of my practices if you want to practice. And I say to people, if you'd like to try anonymously, you can definitely go to my YouTube channel. And then I also have some sample practices on another platform. And I didn't provide this one for you, but it's findblissyoga.com is my website. And if you go there, you can access some of my free resources, including the breath work that we did together. And then also there are some yoga videos and some meditations there as well.
Awesome. Okay. Findblissyoga.com. I think hopefully everybody knows all those words. So great. I love it. Cathy, thank you so much for not just for being with us, but for, sharing about your journey and for the journey you took. I mean, to go through that level of stress and challenge and come through it and find the ways of getting through it, and then create yourself into someone who is serving others and bringing more joy and lightness and resilience to the world. That's a beautiful thing. So I appreciate the work you've done, and I appreciate you being here and sharing with us.
Thank you. Thank you, Daniel. I appreciate that so much. And I just encourage people to find the practices that speak to you and work for you. If it's not what we're discussing today, you deserve to have this life of contentment and ease and be able to enjoy every precious day. So find the practices that work for you, whatever they might be.
Well said. Absolutely. Yeah. And that brings us back to y'all in the audience. Thank you. And again, yes, find what works for you. Tap into what Cathy's offering you. Take advantage of her free gift, right? You, not only are you worth it, you upgrading the quality of your life, your vibrancy, that's what changes the world. So please do try this at home. Y'all, thanks so much for being with us here. I love you. Mahalo for tuning in to the Art of Vibrant Living show, y'all. I'm Daniel Aaron, and may you live with great vibrancy.